Okay, so this is my submission for the first-person shooter level for the my level design class. I decided to choose a Portal 2 level, so I'm going to go ahead and load it up real quick. The position of this level is supposed to be in the middle-ish beginning portion of the game, where a couple of elements have been introduced, but nothing too crazy. Just sort of putting them all together and piecing together parts of a puzzle. This particular level doesn't introduce any new elements, but just kind of pieces together things you already know how to use from the beginning of the game. Things like portable surfaces, death goo, lasers, flingers, cubes and diffraction cubes. This level only uses diffraction cubes. Excuse me. And bouncy goo. Bouncy goo is the first type of goo that's introduced. So it just puts all these things together into a nice simple puzzle just to connect all the points together. One other thing I tried to go for was quite a lot of white space that allows for the player to think about what it is that they're working with. After all, whenever you're creating some type of puzzle, you never really want to not be able to solve it because you don't have a piece, but rather because you can't piece it all together. You should never be without a piece in the puzzle. So I just finished building the lighting, and we're going to get started. I'm going to solve it three ways. The first way is going to be the intended way, and the next two are going to be sort of ways that I discovered partway through that could be solved. They're sort of like exploits, and if the player is capable of finding those exploits, then kudos to them. So first off the bat, first thing off the bat, there's some death goo up here. So if you were to drop down there, you'd die. But on the off chance that the player just decides to drop down here, give them a scheme to get out. But in order to actually get across, you need to set a portal there, one down there, and then just fling yourself across. That's the beginning portion of it. The rest of it is a bit more puzzly with things that don't involve portals. But in order to get across to the other side, I'm going to utilize a portal over there and a portal at the original entrance. Now I am on the second half of the map, where I can now sort of utilize this laser beam. And in order to utilize that laser beam, I need a diffraction cube. So again, this level is all about just sort of piecing stuff together and making sense of how it all works. These flingers are for one's own convenience, so that they can go to where they desire, at least on this half of the map. So that you have an easy path up here. And once you do get up here, you have the capability to utilize a diffraction beam in the diffraction spot. I'm going to let a little bit of blue goo land down there for a second. This is one thing I'll probably have to change. I found that the blue goo doesn't always work as intended. So that might be one of the things I need to change, one of the parts of the puzzle I need to change, but the intention is to make it so that you can bounce off the blue goo into the portal. Every once in a while it's a bit more difficult than other times. Sometimes it's randomly easier to do whenever I'm holding a cube. I don't know why. I know I can do this. I've done this before. I know I have the capability to reach that spot. That's how I did it. Okay, so that's the use of the cube. You can bounce off of the gel while holding the cube underneath of you. And if you hold the cube underneath of you, it allows you to get a little bit of extra leverage into the portal. So that's one of the methods to complete this test chamber, and that was the intended method. Now I'm going to do the second quickest way, which I discovered from just sort of playing around with the level a bit. And like I said, if a player is capable of figuring out these other alternate methods of solving the puzzle, then, you know, kudos to them. It's just a nice little speedrun route. So, originally the intention was to solve the laser puzzle, but you don't actually have to solve the laser puzzle. Instead, what you can do is you can just head across to this other side, and once you've headed to the other side, you get a good perspective on the ceiling. So now you have a perspective on the ceiling, you can just send a portal there, and fling yourself to the other side. Sort of crouch through here. And you're done from beginning to end. The third method is almost exactly the same thing, but in sort of a different order. It's a little bit faster. The reason I've chosen to sort of ignore the fact that these alternate methods can be used is because both of the methods require crouching. So right here I'm going to crouch. Both of these methods require crouching. And the game does not particularly teach you how to crouch, nor is it really at any point important to crouch or necessary. So I've always thought of it as sort of like a convention that carries around from one game to another. So if a player is capable of remembering that it exists in order to get from point A to point B, then fantastic, but I'm not going to require them to use an advanced technique such as that. So yeah, that was my level. 3 different methods of doing it, the intended way, and then the 2 shorter ways that both involve crouching. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much. Bye.